Good afternoon, everyone. This is Shington Labby with Leon County. We will be getting started in a few minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Just wanted to be last. Hello.
Hi. There's a different name on my screen. I'm not sure. Hello.
Hi. Hello, hi. You should be able to unmute. You should be able to rename yourself. Do you have the capability?
I can try.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock. We'll probably give everyone 1 more minute. We're going to give everybody 1 more minute, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to ask everybody, if you haven't already, to mute yourselves, or we will also mute you also.
Sir,
Yep.
the name on here is not correct. That shows up on my screen.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to change it.
What's your name?
My name is Lisa, Lisa, Myrick, Myrick. Actually, it's hyphenated, Herring hyphen Myrick.
Sorry.
Lisa, Lisa, Herring, Herring.
Herring.
Myrick. That's it.
And I took care of it.
You did? Okay,
Yep.
thanks. All right.
Thank you.
And let me make sure my name is showing up.
All right, everyone, it's 2:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Can everybody hear me? I think, Abby, you can hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. Yes.
Perfect.
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon again, everyone. I am Shington Lammy. I'm the Director of Leon County's Office of Human Services and Community Partnerships. And what we're going to do is we're going to have to place everybody on mute. That's going to be the most important thing, because we don't want a situation where there's interruptions. So please, if you haven't already, place yourself on mute. Okay. All right, so again, Shington Lammy, this is the webinar on contracts for agencies that have been preliminarily approved for the Tallahassee-Leon County Nonprofit Services Grant. This webinar will be presented by myself, Anita Morrell with the City of Tallahassee, and Abby Sanders here also with Leon County. We also have UPHS, COCA, Annie, and the United Way with us, who have had and will continue to provide technical support for the grant program. A few things before I go any further. First, this webinar is being recorded, so if you need to watch or listen to it again, it will be posted later in the week with the link available in multiple places, including the county and city's websites and the website of our partners. Second, again, everyone has been placed on mute and the chat has been disabled to avoid any interruptions during the presentation. At the end of the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, okay? Just want to let everybody know You will get an opportunity to ask questions. Finally, we are developing an FAQ document that will be available in the next few days following today's webinar. We expect we'll get some great questions that may require us to get back to you, and we'd like to utilize the FAQ as a resource.
I know, but you had to let the chat.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's get started. First off, congratulations. Your organization is one of 150 nonprofits that have been preliminarily approved for the Nonprofit Services Grant. So what does that mean? That means you provided documents that were required to determine your organization's eligible, that your organization's eligible, and when we reviewed your application, there was enough there to indicate that your organization intends to utilize the nonprofit grant to meet human service needs of Tallahassee-Leon County residents impacted by COVID-19. But recent federal guidance will require us to make some additional assessments and potentially require additional documents, and that's why the approval is preliminary. Just a quick reminder that the county and city are utilizing portions of federal funds that were allocated to us through the American Rescue Plan Act to fund this grant program. Every other week, it seems new guidance is coming out about how we can utilize these funds and reporting requirements that we need to follow. So you may remember when we first introduced this program back in like late June, we didn't plan to do contracts. We were going to distribute all funds immediately to approved agencies, and there would be very little reporting requirements. But that all changed when the Department of Treasury put out further guidance shortly after we opened the application window. So we have to do contracts, we have to do reporting, we have to ensure that the funds will be utilized as intended for this program. Today, we'll talk about what it will take to get to the finish line and how we'll be communicating with you over the next couple of weeks to get all necessary items in place so that we can get to the part where we actually distribute funds. For some agencies, it's going to require some revisions to your application. Many will be required to go through a risk assessment, and all agencies will have to enter into a contract with either the county or city. Let's start with the application. For some organizations, we're going to need you to provide additional information or revise a portion of the response in your application. And that's because everyone's application will be part of your contract. Like I mentioned earlier, you were all preliminarily approved because your organization was deemed an eligible nonprofit, and most, if not all, the funds and budget proposed served a human service purpose. Since your application will be part of your contract, we want to make sure that information you entered specifically in the use of funds section, which was B4, and the budget section, which was B5, aligns with our program guidelines and federal requirements. If it doesn't, or if there is a discrepancy, then we'll reach out to you for further explanation or ask you to revise the sections. For example, there are a number of agencies that reported 0 full-time or part-time staff, but they requested funding for personnel. That's a huge discrepancy because the definition of personnel for the purpose of this program is the full and or part-time staff of the organization. In other words, the cost of personnel should be employees that will receive a W-2 at the end of the year for tax purposes. If it's not if that's not the case, then it's not personnel. In a circumstance like this, the organization will have the choice of either shifting the personnel cost to another line item, deleting the cost entirely, at which point their total funding amount would be reduced equivalent to that particular funding line. Or if they want to justify the request for personnel costs, we'll need pay stubs, employment documents, and other documentation for the staff they intend to pay with the funds that was reported in the application. That was not reported in the application, I should say. Over the next several days, you may be contacted to provide information or more revisions to those sections in the application. But like I said before, only some, not all of you will be required to do this. And of course, this is required so that way we can minimize risk of potentially improper use of federal funds or the funds not getting exhausted like we need to. And so I'll touch a little bit more in the next slide about risk. For many organizations, we'll also have to assess risk. What that means is that we'll need to evaluate the organization and its ability to utilize and administer federal funds in accordance with our program guidelines and federal requirements. We'll do that utilizing a risk assessment monitoring questionnaire booklet that's been recommended by the Department of Treasury as a guide. The questions include, has the organization ever received federal or state funding? What fiscal control or financial policies does it have in place? Does the organization have the capacity to operate the program that it's proposing? Does it have a board of directors? What is the structure of the board? Has the organization ever been fined or has it been fined, had audit issues or inactive in the past 1, 2, or 5 years? For some agencies, we already know the answers to those questions, so the risk assessment will go very, very quickly. And that includes for agencies that the county and city already fund through CHSP. So we already know those agencies will more likely be okay. For others, especially those that have not been previously funded by the county and or city, we may require further information and documentation to conduct the risk assessment and also to file the results of that assessment in your case file. So if and when we get audited or your organization gets audited, we'll have that on file. The results of the risk assessment could lead to one of a few things. One, it may be simple that it goes fine and you can proceed to contract, and that's following any type of review we've done to the use of funding and budget section, as well as the risk assessment. Risk assessment, everything might be fine, and we just say it's fine to proceed. Or it can be a request, we may request additional information and documentation in order to proceed to the contract phase, or it just may be denied due to the high risk that the funds won't be used in accordance with our program guidelines and or federal law, or even exhausted within the contract period. A denial would also happen if not submitting the required documents like we've requested. If all goes well with the application and risk assessment, then we'll be ready to go and move on to contracting. As I mentioned before, we'll have to contract with all agencies for the nonprofit grant. Some organizations will contract with the county and some organizations will contract with the city. The preliminary approval email you received last week indicates who you would be contracting with. If you got the email from the county, then you'll be contracting with us. If you got it from the city, then you'll be contracting with Anita and her team at the city. The contract will lay out the contract period, which will be from the date of execution until September 30th, 2023, your award amount, what you will do with the funds. Again, this information will come from your application, which will be attached to the contract, how the funds will be distributed, and the reporting requirements. Contracts will be generated through Neighborly, the system that you use to actually apply for the program. And in a few minutes, we'll run through how simple we think we've made it for the organizations to complete the contract through the Neighborly system. Let me take a moment to talk about the W-9 forms. All agencies completed and uploaded a W-9 form when they applied for the program. But as you may remember, it was a county W-9 form. So if you're contracting with the county, we'll reach out if we need anything extra, but we shouldn't. But if we do, we will. Agencies that will be funded by the city will have to complete a different process. And for that process, I'm going to turn it over to Anita to touch on. Anita?
Sorry, had myself on mute. How is everyone
It's
today?
all right. Understood.
I turned my camera back on, but no, didn't unmute myself. Sorry for that. Yeah, so Shinkton is correct. In your letter from the city of Tallahassee, your approval letter for your grant funding, we explained to you that if you are not currently a supplier with the city of Tallahassee, you will receive an email from the city asking you to go into the city supplier portal to complete a profile. And in that profile, you will complete your direct deposit form, your W-9, and any other information that is in there. The sooner you complete that information, the sooner you will become a vendor, a supplier for the city of Tallahassee. For those agencies that did not receive an email, we reconciled all of the agencies that will be funded by the city of Tallahassee. And as we looked at your agency, we saw that you are currently a supplier. So if you did not receive an email from the city of Tallahassee, do not worry about it because you are currently a supplier with the city. If you have any questions regarding your status with the city of Tallahassee, you can reach out to the city staff and we can get our information to you as soon as possible.
All right.
I'm done, Chinkton.
All right. Thanks, Anita.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about how the funds will be distributed. As I mentioned previously, our initial intent was to distribute the full allocation to each agency once we determined that they were approved. However, due to the federal guidance we received, we're going to distribute funds in at least 2 payments. Once a contract is fully executed, then the organization can receive up to 50% of its allocation with the submittal of an activity report and invoice. We'll show you how both documents look in a few minutes. This will be considered an advancement to the organization. We may require additional documentation such as, but not limited to, bank statements or check stubs if we determine that the risk to providing federal funds to the organization remains high. The remainder of the funds can be distributed once the initial 50% have been distributed. And again, in that case, we'll need an activity report and invoice. Again, we reserve the right to require additional documentation for payment, including details on how the first 50% of funds were expended. So all these requirements are laid out at a high level in the actual contract. So I'll turn it over to Abby Sanders now to provide a walkthrough on how you will be able to access the contract through Neighborly to complete it. All right, Abby.
Awesome. Okay.
Should I stop sharing?
You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so in this contracting piece, you will receive an email that tells you when you're ready to go in to fill out the information. It's going to be a simple step similar to what you already did for the application. It's just called step 5. And so in there, you will submit your primary signatories information, which includes these 5 fields. So Sheena, if you want to go to the next page. And this portal just takes you right to the application, which is what you've been using. We'll make this PowerPoint and recording available, but I'm going to go ahead and just share the portal screen.
Stop sharing?
Yes. Okay, so I think everyone should be able to see that. Shinkton, can you see this?
Yep, I can see it.
So this is the administrator portal, so you won't see quite as much information. When you log on to the main screen, it will take you to your application number and you'll click on that. When you're able to fill this information, section 5, which is called contracting, will show up. When you get on this, there will be a link to your contract documents. So prior to being able to fill out any of the information, you'll see the contract and what the exhibits will look like. So you're kind of verifying what's going on, making sure it looks right. And then you input this information. And once it's saved and completed, it will render into your document. And so we'll be able to show the amount that you're getting, your board's name, all this information. Please use the your main person, whoever's authorized to sign on your agency's behalf, this is the information we want. And we recognize that this could be different than who you used to fill out the application. So, you know, they need to be the ones that are going in here and signing for you. And if you have a registered name in the system for award management or the data universal numbering system, put that in there in C4 and C5. If you don't have that information because you aren't registered in the system, that's okay. But we do want to know if you are, because that tells us if you've received federal funding previously. So you'll complete this information, click sign, complete and continue. After this step, Shinkin, if you want to, I'm going to stop sharing. If you want to go back to your
Okay. Share
PowerPoint.
my screen. Next slide.
Yes. So once you've submitted the contract, we've routed it and gotten it back to you, then you'll be able to submit the initial activity report and invoice that Shinkton previously mentioned. That needs to be complete before we can start any of the payments. And so once we've said we're good, we've got the contract ready, we will create a new piece of the application portal called like section 6, and I will create a step-by-step instruction on how to complete it. But this is where you'll be able to drop in the activity report and the invoice sheet, which we'll show you on the next slide. But as Shinkton said, there'll be 3 reporting windows. The initial one where you'll submit this information to receive up to the 50% of your approved amount. On the second one, after you've used the 50%, you have to submit one to tell us what you've done and to receive the remainder of your funding. And then a final report to close out the contract, which says everything that you've done. And noting that this is in the contract, but a non-submittal of a final activity report is a breach of contract, and that could require the return of funding and prohibit you from receiving future funding from the county or city. So we really need that final activity report and invoice per federal guidelines for auditing purposes to submit reports to Treasury, but also you could have to return the funds or not receive future funding if you don't submit that information. And that's by the close of the contract, so 2023. But really, as soon as you've used all the funds, that's when we want to see that information. So can you go to the next slide? These are the 2 documents that you will use to submit. So Exhibit B, you will write your name, kind of describe what's happening. We have the right to change this form at any time, and we will just update that form in the portal. So it'll be in the portal of what you need to fill out. It'll look pretty similar to just telling us what you've done and then describing it again on the Exhibit C with the amount associated with that task. You'll upload those documents 3 times. And then the next steps right now, kind of what we talked about already, is that we'll send out emails in the next week. One email you'd either get one of 2 emails. One is that we needed additional information as part of the application, which is in section 3, or for the risk assessment. And the other email will be just a confirmation saying that, you know, we've reviewed everything, it looks good, and you're ready to start the contracting piece of the application. So either more information or please proceed. Once all the contracts are executed, or once your contract is executed, you can submit that activity report and invoice on the portal itself. And we do not need those things emailed to us. And they're just going to live in the application where everything else has lived since this has started. And then once we've received those, the city or county will make the payments of up to that 50% of the award amount. For the next slide.
Well,
Shinkton, take
I'm
it
gonna bring it
away.
home for landing. Yeah. So let me just remind everyone that all this may seem overwhelming, but you've got help. We're continuing to partner with UPHS, Annie, COCA, and the United Way to provide agencies funded through this program with technical support. So that means if we email you needing more information for your application or the risk assessment, UPHS, Annie, COCA, and United Way will also be emailed so that they can help you get the information we need. They'll also be able to assist with the contract, the activity reports, and the invoicing. They have been a critical partner throughout this process, and that will continue during this phase of the program. Their contact information is up here on the screen, as you can see, but also be on the lookout for a call or email because they will be reaching out. With that, we're happy to answer any questions. Please click the raise your hand button to be recognized. Abby, I'll look out for you. Tell me who we should be recognizing. And if you're on the phone and not on actual Zoom platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute.
Okay, we'll start with Rebecca Kelly. I'm unmuting, asking her to unmute now.
As far as these, our type of our board of directors are all volunteer related. Most of our quote unquote employees are 1099 employees. So that means like our dance instructors, we pay them and then we send them a 1099 at the end of the year, you know, for their tax purposes. How does that affect the employee status? I can't remember, I don't have my application in front of me, whether or not I said we did have any actual full or part-time employees. Most of, like I said, all of our board members are volunteer-based, but we pay our dance instructors and then we submit 1099s at the end of the year for those services.
Great question, Rebecca. So with your board, it's fine if the board is volunteer. Most nonprofits, your board is volunteer. I'd be surprised to see any boards that are paid for nonprofit organizations. But when it comes to your dancers who you 1099, we would probably want to include that under other, but there's the other section. But let me think through it a little bit because that's something that we'll have to take a look at because as long as maybe we can find documentation, you can provide documentation about the 1099 that you provided in the past, maybe we can kind of look at it as a gray for personnel, but let me think through that a little bit. But we will definitely address that under the FAQ.
Okay, because we also, we do have one person that we pay on a monthly basis as well to do all of our music and our publicity. So obviously we would have copies of canceled checks that we pay him, and in the memo line, it's what we actually, you know, say that it is for. Again, a 1099 employee. That's basically everything that we do is 1099. So, and we have documentation from previous years on 1099s for those dance instructors and things like that. So, yes, if you could mull that over, I guess, and then that would definitely be one of the answers that I personally will need for our circumstance.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Can I ask, when you're introducing yourself, to also mention the name of your organization?
This is Robert Wood with the Florida Veterans Foundation. I have a similar question that we have two personnel, and our executive director is one, as well as the grant developer or the development person. They are both 1099s. But they both have contracts, like our executive director has a full-time contract that paid us a 1099. And we've done this with other state agencies before, where we've actually showed the contract as part of that personnel documentation, showed the time they worked, their full-time, showed their hours, et cetera. Would that be acceptable to continue to do that for this particular grant?
Yeah, we're not saying that this would not be acceptable for the grant. What we're saying is that the question is, where do we put it on the line item? Is it going to be under personnel or other? Yeah, so all those are fine. It's just where's the best place to put it? Is what we're trying to figure out. Yeah.
Can I put in a point of clarification for you on that?
Go ahead.
So personnel is if your agency is paying Medicare or paying any portion of or matching portion of any of their personnel costs to the federal government. If you're not doing that, everyone else is contracted, which should receive a 1099, so they should go in other.
Okay, thank you, Anita.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
This probably sounds a little squirmy, but
I'm
it's.
sorry, can you introduce yourself as well as your organization? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm Betsy Tabak with Neighbor to Neighbor in the Ninis.
Okay.
Can we use this grant to pay for an independent contractor
Yeah.
who may or may not actually do the activity that is proposed, as long as, wait a minute, please, as long as we complete the promised activities, and that would occur by a volunteer doing it?
If you're paying someone to do work, it has to be associated with the proposed program that is being funded. It has to be for human services programming. I mean, if
Right.
yeah, so it can't really be indirect. It should kind of be directly impacting the program that's being delivered.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Good afternoon, everyone. My
I'm
name
sorry.
is,
I'm sorry,
We had
everyone.
a couple of
Please-
people with their hands up.
Yeah, please, let's
Yeah.
let either Abby or someone can recognize you first before you start talking.
Yeah, we'll go ahead with Elaine De La Paz, and I'll ask to unmute you. So go ahead, Elaine.
You're on pause, Mr. De La Paz, if you're talking.
Yeah, my mic was muted. My bad. This is Alain De La Paz from the All Saints Outreach. I noticed you guys had information about Sam's and Dunn's numbers up there. So I applied for one of those way back, and the process was extremely daunting, and I never kept up with it, so I didn't have one. But I don't know if the fact that I applied for that would be an issue.
No, if you have one, great. If you don't, that's okay. If you have one ready, then we want you to include that. I'll be honest, if you have a DUNS number, that's helpful because that answers one of those questions that we have to complete in a questionnaire about whether or not you've received, well, I mean, the DUNS doesn't mean you've received it, but at least you know the process of applying for federal funds. That's helpful. But you don't have to have a DUNS number. But if you do, we'd like it to be completed because there's a specific exhibit under the agreement that asks for it, that we want to make sure that it's captured. But again,
Fair.
That's if your organization has one.
Yeah, that was bananas. I tried to go through that, and it started asking me about like if I was going to sell weapons to the military, and I was like, I think I misclicked on something. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And then the pamphlet of stuff for like the book that you guys said would be for the guidance for all the prerequisites and stuff. Is that something you're going to send out, or is it just whatever we need will appear in the neighborly portal?
Yeah, whatever we need, we'll let you know. If there's a question that we may need help with, we'll provide to you. I mean, if you guys want to see the questionnaire, that's fine too. It's lengthy.
No.
Yeah,
If I don't need to,
yeah,
I have complete faith in you guys. Right, that's it. Thank you very much. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
JC Gamboa, Living Stones International. My question is, if we have added a part-time person, would we have to make an adjustment in the personnel costs, or, and after you, I guess, mull over whether they're gonna, 1099s will be in other, or is it something that we can adjust because we have added someone to staff?
If you've added somebody to staff, and you want to make some adjustments to the personnel component or the other component of your application, yeah, please let us know. If we don't need anything from you, we won't reach out to you. But if you want to make some type of change, please reach out to either the county or city, whoever you're contracting with, and let us know so that we can give you that opportunity to do that.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Thanks.
Dominique Moore. Go ahead and unmute you.
good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Dominique Moore. My organization is called Women with Worth. And I didn't understand what supplier mean. I did receive a letter, the email from the county, but I didn't know what the word supplier mean.
In our email?
No, Miss, I want to say her name was Mule. I don't remember. I'm sorry, because I can't
So
see
you
her
so you got it
face.
from the city then?
From the city.
Okay.
Supplier's the same as a vendor.
Okay,
So if you've never conducted business with the city of Tallahassee, they consider it a supplier, but it's actually a vendor.
okay,
So we can execute your contract and disperse funds to you.
okay. So I've never received that, so that means I will receive something since I've never been a supplier. Is that
Yes,
what?
ma'am. You should receive an email from a guy named Antoine with the city of Tallahassee requesting you to, well, allowing you access to the portal so you can complete your information to become a vendor.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Vanessa Moore.
Yes, again, my name is Vanessa Moore. I'm with the GFWC Sisters of Service Women's Club Incorporated. And it's related to the question that was just asked. I searched and searched and searched the email. So other than the congratulatory letter that says we've been preliminarily approved, I didn't see anything about the vendor or supplier. So do I need to follow up to find out if there's something else, or you will just reach out to us?
Was it an email from the county or the city?
It was from
Sounds
the
like it was from
city.
County. Oh, it's from the city? Okay.
Yeah, it was from the city.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Moore, we will follow up with you.
Okay,
The city will follow up with you.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Stephanie Daniel.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Daniel. I'm with I Believe, You Believe, We Believe, Inc. My question, I understood when we were talking about the grant initially that it was a prospective grant, and we had planned to use part of the grant to hire a part-time individual to act as a volunteer recruiter and coordinator. We're a volunteer organization. Does this mean that that won't be possible and we'll have to figure out some other way to do that?
No, that's still possible. That is still possible. So it will be for funds. It can be for funds from starting in March of this year, and I can't remember the exact date of when Congress passed it, all the way through September 30th of 2023. So if it's prospective, that's okay too. If it's a position that hasn't been filled yet, that's okay. Again, when we do the risk assessment, we'll determine if we need some additional information. In a situation like that, if we did, it may be like, well, show us the posting for the position that you're looking to hire or something like that. So we can kind of get a sense that it's an actual, if it doesn't have a warm body in it yet, you're working in the process to actually get a warm body in that position.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next person is Anne. And I don't know how to say your last name. I'm so sorry. And you are muted still.
Okay.
Perfect. You're good.
Hey,
Thank
Ann.
you. My name is Ann Meisenzahl. Hi, Shington,
How you doing?
and other people I know. I'm with the Big Bend After Reentry Coalition. And I think now that my questions are just to clarify, the grant ending date is 2023. So that means that we have 2 years within which to use these funds.
Yes.
Spread out over the course of those 2 years? Could we use them in 1 year, or do they need to be spread out evenly over the course of that time?
You can use it when you need it. Except like we said before, you can only get up to 50% of it for up front, like kind of like an advancement, and then we'd have to get an activity report before you can get the net, and then you can come back to the remainder, all within during the contract period. So if you're in a place where you feel like you have everything ready, and you're in a place where you can get all of it this calendar year. So even in 2021, that's okay.
Okay, great. So we also don't have to start right away. If we need a month or two
Correct.
of preliminary
That's
work,
right.
we can wait.
That's right.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
And then the other question was about the hiring staff, and I think that's answered because we are also an all-volunteer organization, so we need time to recruit to pay staff. So that answered my question. Thank you.
Welcome.
Kim Ross.
All right, thank you. Kim Ross with Rethink Energy Florida. I have a question about the activity report. So you, and I know we can go back if we need to, but you said that we would be doing an activity report, and we're primarily looking forward with the funding that we intend to use. So under those conditions, if we're submitting an activity report at the beginning, what does that look like? Like, hey, we've done some planning, you know, and then
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I do have one other question, which is just if you can, I'm pretty sure that we'll end up following into the risk assessment questionnaire. Would love to see that sooner than later so we can make sure we have our ducks in a row on that.
Okay. So with the activity report, it can be what you plan to do. It can be a combination. It can be what you've done since March. Remember, we can't go prior to March of this year per federal statutes of the establishment of the American Rescue Plan Act. All the way, or it can be something that you're planning to do to get the 50%. But then, or it can be a combination of both. Maybe there are some things you did already, and then there's maybe some things that you're planning to do within the first 50% of the dollars, and that's okay too. But when you come back for the remainder, we will need to see that some activity has been taken. It can't be, well, now I want the other remainder still for perspective, and nothing has happened with the activity report. Like we want to see some form of activity has occurred as part of it.
Got it. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, and we can get the risk management assessment. Let me just say one thing about that tool, Kate, just the questionnaire. It is a guide for us. There may be some additional things we may require. So it's not like the holy grail and this is all the county and city will look at. There, it may lead us to ask some additional questions, but yeah, we're more than happy to share it with the group.
Okay, yeah, I know. I had applied for a bridge loan, and
Okay, so
they
you're familiar with it.
they gave us some feedback. We didn't receive it, and they gave us some feedback on some policies that we needed to put in place. So I'm guessing I need to move that up on the ladder of priorities.
Okay, Kristen Barnett.
Hi, my name is Kristen Barnett. I'm with a neighborly nonprofit. I hope this question is applicable to other people as well. It's regarding the activity portion. And so, for example, we requested half our funds for the actual program. And it is essentially a breakfast that we do at multiple sites biweekly. So in this task description amount, like, would we get an example? Because like for me, for example, like, do I just say like buy apples, you know, on one line, or in the second one, like detail each item, or lump it saying, you know, we bought all of these products and food, and then like every week say how much that costs?
And so we're probably going to tweak this a little bit. This is for some of our other contracts. We were actually looking at this earlier today and was like, may need to tweak it for our nonprofits, but it'll just simply be, okay, going back to the budget that you saw in the application, how much was personnel, how much was for capital, how much was for supplies and I forget, equipment, I think is what it is, how much was for other, but then for other, we may ask some additional information. And then you put that amount in there and that's it.
Okay, so if it's a recurring thing, I should only mention it once.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Barbara Mendoza.
Hi, yes, I'm here on behalf of the OCO Foundation, and I have a couple of questions. The first one is, can funds be utilized for expenditures that were not included on the initial applications? An example would be creation and maintenance of a website and or dues and fees for the nonprofit.
Yes, it can be used for those things. If it's for a human services purpose, if it's because you're paying dues for a larger entity that's assisting the organization in building capacity or assisting it in delivery of service, human services specifically, yes. If it's for a website promoting the program to communities, to our community, to Leon County residents or City of Tallahassee residents that have been impacted by COVID-19, yes. But it got to kind of fit that mold of that's what it's for in that human services realm.
So the website would be to promote the actual foundation itself.
For services that people can utilize?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the most important thing. That's the key part. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other question that I had was, does the exact amount in each area of the application have to be the exact same?
Preferably, but we can work with you if we need to. If we might need to mute somebody. Well, we may need to. If there's adjustments that need to be made, we're more than happy to talk to you guys about that. But preferably, yes, we would like to see whatever you allocate towards a certain line is what you're going to use it for.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, Lisa. Hi.
Hello, my name is Lisa Myrick. I'm with Safe Haven Hope for Children. My very first time ever doing a grant, so I'm a little nervous. One of the things, how would I know if I got a letter from what's her name? Gabrielle Sanders? Does that determine, is that the city or the county?
Abigail Sanders, and that's Abby. Yes, that's the county.
That's the county. So okay. All right then. So as you spoke,
I
these
believe it,
emails,
right? It would have shown it was the Leon. She works for Leon County, right? Right, it says Leon County.
yeah, like
I
I said,
emailed you earlier today, so it's with the county.
okay, all right, thank you. I just want, yeah, because I didn't know if it was they came from different places. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. De La Paz, you're good to ask another question. I'm asking to unmute you now.
Yeah. Thanks. I can't go through one of these without asking two questions. So for what we're doing is the offering therapy for people. So for like a preliminary activity report, would you guys want like, okay, this is how many people we already have signed up for this? And because it's like HIPAA protected information, maybe they're like initials and their zip code like we did last time, or what exactly would you want for that?
We're not asking for you to list who those individuals are at this point. So as you see in the activities report, it can talk about the number of clients you intend to serve. And then also it may be where you provide to us. Yeah, I mean, that's the extent to it. However, we do reserve the right, of course, if we need to be able to audit that stuff. We will still have to audit it if need be.
Yeah,
I understand HIPAA, but if we need to audit certain things to go deeper to ensure that the dollars were used appropriately, then that's something that will need that will have to be allowable at that point. We won't share the information. We totally understand what HIPAA is. We work with several healthcare programs through CHSP, through our primary healthcare program, so we're familiar with it and what we can do and things like that. But for the time being, when you submit your activity report, we just need a number. What number are you going to do? And then we need you to report back. Eventually, did you serve that population? And if you did, how?
Perfect then.
How did that happen?
I was making mountains out of molehills. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Mara Hudson.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I had two questions. I might have missed it if someone else have already asked the question. My first question is funds that we are submitting to basically receive, since these are going to be allocated in, I guess, certain amounts. When we are let me see how I'm going to put this. So for previous things that we have already paid for like within the program, are you able to submit those?
Yes, as long as it was, it can't be before March of this year.
It can't be before March of this year.
No.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And then secondly, my next question is, for something in the nature of, like, for instance, matter of fact, I'm from Val Now Academy, so it's pretty much a nonprofit private school. And so let me ask this: any software that we're utilizing for the actual students, if there's like a subscription cost and that's ongoing, is that something that we're able to submit?
Yes. It's
Okay,
for the
awesome.
students who have been impacted by COVID-19, which
That is correct.
kids in Leon County, Tallahassee have been impacted by COVID-19 due to,
Yes.
you know, schools being shuttered and things like that last year, and even
Yes.
this year, then yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Larry Scoma.
Mr. Scoma, you might be on mute.
There we go. Does that take me off?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. I have a question. The application that we submitted can, when we do this this additional paperwork, that's where we can really define the details of our application. Is that correct?
So if we have questions, if we don't have questions, we won't, if to us, it's clear if, again, the sections we're talking about specifically, if B4 and I'm sorry if I'm moving so fast, B4 and B5 are clear to us. You're very clear about the intended use. There's no discrepancies with what you say you're going to do and the budget breakdown and staffing and stuff like that, then we won't even reach out to you unless you want to do something different.
Okay, no.
Now, if we do have something, if it's not clear, then we will give you an opportunity to go in and explain. So that way we'll be very clear. Hey, here's what we don't understand. And we will also be clear, let me share with everyone that if there's something that you might have said that you wanted to do that doesn't really align with human service or what we're thinking, we may say, hey, you may need to do something else. We can't pay for that. So you may want to adjust your budget and do something different and also update your narrative. And then you can go in and do that if we have any questions or if we want to make a tweak. Now, if we don't, then we've done the risk assessment and we don't have any questions for your application, then all you'll receive then is an email stating that, as Abby mentioned, that you can go into the system and take a look at the contract and confirm the contract page and go in there and complete that.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, Vanessa Moore. Go ahead and unmute yourself again. I think I messed up.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hit it twice. My bad. Vanessa Moore, GFWC Sisters of Service Women's Club. Okay, so I have a couple of questions just from listening a little bit more. In the event, what would be the time frame that we should expect to receive an email requesting additional information or additional clarification? Because I know sometimes email gets a little funny. You know, even though we make it a point to check the main box and the spam mail, something may have happened on the sender's end where we didn't get it. So we should give it approximately how long before we follow up with someone?
Okay, do you see the slide? The slide that's up right now? Can you see that?
Let's see.
So next
Yes.
week, next week, you should start getting emails with any questions that we may have.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is, again, we'll copy UPHS, NE, COCA, United Way. So they may even reach out to you if, in addition to our email.
Okay.
To be able to assist you to answer any questions that we may have.
Okay. And the communication will just be email, no snail mail?
Yeah, it won't be snail mail. We
Okay.
may, if we haven't heard from you in a while, we'll pick up the phone and call.
Okay.
We will not just wait on because again, like you said before, sometimes something happens in the system, it gets caught somewhere and doesn't make it, or it gets caught in spam or something. So we will do that touch also.
Okay. And then my second question is, for our project activity, we have big goals. So we're trying to service 500 kids. We know that the full 20,000 won't cover that. So it is our plan to seek out other nonprofits and vendors to possibly add money to assist us to reaching the 500 kids. Is that going to be a problem combining outside funds with the funds that we are to receive from this grant?
No, not at all. We would encourage that. However, what does become an issue is, and I'll share this with everyone, especially our agencies who haven't worked with the county or the city in the past. Based on the assessment tool, and you guys will see this once we get this out, if this is the only source of fund that your organization have, or it's the primary, and we already know that these dollars are not, it's one-time funding, right? We're not providing these funds annually. These are one-time $20,000. It becomes a high risk if that's the only source of funds that agency has. So in this situation, we will ask for certain documentation, like show us where the other source of funds are coming from. How are you going to make sure this is sustainable? It's not just a one-shot event that this thing will continue to occur. We will ask those things, because those are things we're going to need, because those are things that we typically ask of any agency or human service agencies that apply through the Community Human Services Partnership Program, CHSP.
Foundation, this is Georgiana. How may I help you?
I'm sorry, Georgina, we can hear you. I need to mute yourself. So those are the things that we will be doing when we do a risk assessment. That's going to be, because remember that one of those things that we need to figure out is what's the agency's capacity to deliver on what they want to do. So that's going to be critical.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Lisa.
The question was kind of already answered through another question. I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susan Lee.
Hello. Can
Hello,
you hear
Susan.
me okay? My name is Susan Lee. I'm the administrative assistant for Families Restoring the Home Front.
Okay.
And you may have answered this, but if you're purchasing a item that is more than 50% of the amount agreed upon, how does that work?
Well, we would assume you have other resources of funds to cover it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something you're requesting and it's, exceeds the 50% amount, then you'll need additional, because we can't go above the 50% amount per the contract, you'll see.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Barbara Mendoza.
Hi, yes, I had a follow-up question.
Yes.
What is the deadline to provide the additional requested info if it is indeed requested?
We're going to ask to get it within 48 hours because, again, we want to kind of, get this train moving, because, we all know we've got so much things going on, and we've got so many other programs that we're administering both on the county and city level. So we'll want to get it sooner rather than later. So language will say, like, please get this to us within 48 hours. But again, if working with our partners, they'll be able to kind of help push it along, and then our staff will call. But if we are not getting a response, as I mentioned before, there was 200 plus agencies that applied. There's others kind of waiting in the wings. So please get the information, because if it looks like it's taking too long, we're just going to move on to another agency, just deny that agency if it takes too long to get information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mara Hudson.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I just had a follow-up question as well, from something that someone had just asked. When it says upon the receipt of activity report and invoice, the city or county will make payments up to 50% of the awarded amount. So is that just speaking on in reference to, I'm just gonna say hypothetically, personnel staffing? Let's just say we allocated and say, there's $3,000 for that amount. So basically saying that 1,500 of that will be sent when that is received. And then what about the remainder?
No, so what it means is that it's based on your total. So we will only go up to 50% of your total. So if your total is $20,000, right?
Yes.
If you want all 3,000 in personnel, as long as it's $10,000 or less, that's okay. That's totally fine. If that's what you want to put it in for. But the bottom line is your total, the total amount that you would be awarded or allocated, we can't provide more than 50%. Then after that period, then you can submit for the next 50%, the remainder. Now, let me just share that we'll be a little leery if an agency week one asks for 50% and then week two come ask for the remainder. We need to find out what's going on there, because all of it requires an activity report. And with the activity report, we want to see something occurred or happening with the activities with the first installment of dollars that was provided. That's going to be critical, that we're seeing that things are being done and a report is being submitted. If there's a request for a remainder that we feel is kind of quick, then we're going to ask for additional documents. Like we said, we may ask bank statements, we may ask for pay stubs or whatever documentation to show what happened with the first 50%.
Okay, so basically, for example, I think I asked you, you said as long as it was after March. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if I show like, sorry, I hate saying so many times. If I show that the staffing was paid and a certain amount, and then there's proof that, their payroll or, the checks or whatever was paid for that amount, and then to request, I guess a certain amount that was paid, let's just say from April until now, that was paid to that staff, then does that become okay?
You mean for the remainder?
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
That is everybody that we had with raised hands in the chat. So if anyone else has another question.
Yeah, we can probably take one more. It's after 3 now, but we're more than happy to answer one more question if anybody may have it. If not, again, everyone, thank you for hopping on this afternoon on this webinar. Again, we will follow up once we have the recording ready and a link ready for where you can kind of go back and review it. Be on the lookout later this week on the FAQ. And then also, please, as we said, next week, be on the lookout for emails regarding next steps, okay? Be it whether we require additional information regarding your application or for a risk assessment, or because we're saying come on in and complete the contract page, okay?
Shinkton, I'm sorry, before we close out, can you share the page for for our partners, please, just so they can write down their names and numbers and get their email addresses, because please reach out to them first if you have any questions. They've been really good partners with us. They are experts in this as well. So please reach out to those partners if they do not reach out to you first. And that was it, Shinton.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, everyone. All right. Well, everyone, please have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for the